Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope I'm audible and the screen is visible. Uh, Perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up. So it's been a long time since we've done one of our webinars. We were fairly regular about a year back, but it's glad to have so many of you join in after such a long time. I think the last year has been a uh, excellent time as far as investing journeys of people go. I think people have made excellent returns on their portfolios, both in the listed and the unlisted markets. And therefore, as we sit here a year later after the, since we are into the bull run, the idea was to, kind of review what investments we have made, what companies we have evaluated, and to see what opportunities can we talk about for the next set of portfolio which we are going to create. So the flow of things would be something like this. I would just like to kind of give an intro about Altius, a little about what we do for the new members who would have joined in for the first time with Altius. Talk about companies which we had identified last year, invested in, and how have those companies done. Speak about current opportunities, some companies which we are evaluating right now, and how do we think that those will pan out in the future. And lastly, cover some updates in general from 6, 7 of our portfolio companies. We would like to ideally cover this entire bit in the next 20-25 minutes. So by 4:40, I think we should be able to wrap up our bit of the presentation. And what we would want is we reserve the last 10-15 minutes for a discussion. So even if you have any queries in the middle of this, please feel free to type it out as a part of the chat section, and we will try and pick up those queries and answer it for you, either in between or maybe once we are through with our planned journey of the presentation. So without further ado, just kicking it off. So as most of you know, Altius is a leading platform for investing into private markets. The idea with which we formed Altius was there is a disconnect between what opportunities are available in the private markets for larger funds and what opportunities are there in the public markets. So there was a niche wherein Altius figured out that there are companies which are not public yet, but are trying to go public in the next 2 to 3 years. And there is a huge journey for value creation and value unlocking, which will happen right before the IPO. So the idea was to bring together a list of 100, 200 companies from where we can invest, understand these companies well, solve for information disparity, solve for uh, unclear methods of execution, solve for uh, transaction charges and commissions, and to create a platform which kind of allows people to invest as seamlessly and as digitally as possible into unlisted and pre-IPO companies. I think most of the people here would have used our web platform or our app at some point of time or the other. Basically, it is an one-stop solution for all of your private market investing needs. So the essential idea is that the app helps you log in, sign up, look at investments, evaluate, understand those companies, filter out what you like, uh, compare it to other companies in a listed peer or unlisted peer set. Once you are sure of what you want to invest into, invest digitally, make a payment, track your investments digitally, manage your order book, and then eventually also be able to track your portfolio, what you've invested in, what pricing you entered, what the current pricing in is, and also choose when to exit through the platform itself. So the idea was to digitize everything that was being done physically by clients. Now, with a quick background of that, I'll also quickly introduce myself. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Abhishek Ginodia. I head the products and research at Altius. Been with Altius for about 4.5 years now. Prior to that, I was in the corporate sector, worked across 10 years in PwC, ITC, and Marico. Um, Majorly handling sales and distribution and some commercial and supply chain functions as well. Um, it's been about 4 years since I've been into the private markets. Broadly, The core reason for joining this space was we saw a highly underserved need for creating a platform which assisted people to invest into such companies. And since then, we've grown from a overall user base of about 2.5, 3,000 clients to right now almost 15,000 odd investors who have logged into our platform, invested with us in some or the other capacity. Right. So, just to give you a brief idea on where we have been in the past. So, we've been into the private space for about 12 years now, and these are some of the companies which you might have heard of in the past, which we entered into fairly early on. So, typically, our ideal timeline is to enter anywhere between 2 to 5 years before an IPO. We typically want to look at large companies which are at least, say, more than $500 million in market cap and have a very clear cut path to an IPO. So the only uncertainty which we want to play on is that how long will it take for the IPO to come in, not on the quality of the company in a sense. So typically these are either top-notch startups or uh, companies which have been backed by large PE funds or companies which are subsidiaries of very large companies. And in a sense, there's a high likelihood that these companies will go public fairly soon. So some of our previous investments have been ICICI Prudential, ICICI Lombard, RBL Bank. Typically, in most of these companies, we've been able to net anywhere between 5 and 10x. And typically, most of these we've held anywhere between 3 to 5 years. Just allow me 1 second. Sorry for that small hiccup. Moving on. So this was what we had done for the last 10 years. Now coming to companies which we had worked on in the last 1.5, 2 years. So some of these companies we wanted to cover. Vari Energies is a company which we want to highlight right now broadly because the IPO for Vari is just around the corner. It is supposed to get listed next week itself. The IPO applications are just going to open. So Vari was an interesting journey. So what Vari does is basically it is into the solar panel manufacturing space. It has one of the largest installed capacity of PV manufacturing. It exports most of its produced goods, and it has also set up India's. It is one of the very few companies in India which is now setting up a solar cell division and a solar wafer division. Now, the idea of showing this slide and covering Vari is that there is a way in which we kind of select companies and we identify opportunities in the private space. So when we had actually picked out Vari, the core thesis was that it was at that time it was also backed by ValueQuest. ValueQuest runs a fairly large PMS and an AIF, and uh, presence of a large fund ensures that we are protected as far as minority interests go. Plus, there is a very clear-cut timeline to an unlocking event happening because typically when a fund enters, they make sure that the timeline for the company to either IPO or do a secondary sale or do some form of unlocking is set between 3 and 5 years. And that's why we always prefer, and in most of the investments which we bring to you, you would generally see that there are some large, very blue blood backers to those companies. Second, Vari had an excellent founding team and management team in place. They had roped in some of the best managers in the solar space into the company, and the founders themselves had a very long and sturdy background. Vari, unlike its other competitors in the solar space, had already initiated plans to do a backend integration. So typically in solar, how it works is solar panels is the end product which is typically sold to the consumer, which most of the solar companies in India today make, which is called PV panels. And before that, there are multiple stages. So Vari had already begun plans to do a backward integration long before its competitors had planned. And lastly, it had a massive foothold into the US markets, so much so that 70% of its revenue share, or say if it was selling 100 rupees worth of goods, almost 70% was coming from the US markets. Plus, it had plans to invest onshore in the US markets because US had a extremely lucrative incentive scheme in place for companies who would want to set up solar manufacturing there. So these are the reasons why we were very, very positive on Wari for the last 1.5, 2 years. And since then, we started acquiring Wari almost at a level of 550. Back then, there was very low visibility on the company. Most people did not understand the space very well. Most people were not aware of Wari. But for the last 2.5, 3 years, since we first got Vari on our radar, the company has been flawlessly executing all sorts of projects that it is landing up. Plus, it has been able to deliver a very healthy bottom line and top line for the last 3 years. So, just to give you a flavor of the numbers, FY23 Vari clocked almost a PAT of 570-600 crores. FY24 they clocked around 1270 crores. So they 2x their PAT in 1 year. And FY25 they are expected to clock a similar upswing in both top line and bottom line, which is already evidenced by the quarterly results which they have published. So Vari's IPO was going to open with a price band of close to 1500. There is a very real chance that the listing can happen anywhere between 2800 to 3000 rupees a share, because currently the GMP in Vari stocks is somewhere around 85-90%. For people who would have entered in the unlisted space, they have generated almost a 4x return, 4.5x return from 550 to 2700 levels. One similar company which we identified last year, somewhere around March, was Hexaware. So Hexaware is essentially an IT company which used to service mid-market companies across the globe. And we got into this share at around 290 a share adjusted for splits. And this was back in March 23. At the time, why did we like Hexaware? Again, the first point remains very similar to Vari. It was majorly owned by Carlyle. Carlyle is one of the largest PE funds in the world, and it had a majority holding in Hexaware. The P for Hexaware was extremely attractive. They were priced approximately at 24 times, while even larger players like Infosys were at 36 times. And boutique IT firms like Happiest Mind and Mindtree were almost trading at 60 to 70x of their last year earnings. Now, what we realized is that at these valuations, there was very little for us to go wrong. Considering that Carlyle was there, there was a fair amount of certainty that there'll be a very clear path to an IPO. Plus, when we invested, the company was actually giving a dividend yield of almost 5%. So, what this helps in is kind of get some cash flow in, and therefore it allows you to hold that stock much longer, even if the value unlocking takes time. So, if along with comfort of who's backing the company, comfort of what the company is being valued at, if there is a dividend deal, that is like a cherry on the cake, and we typically jump at such opportunities. How has Hexaware performed? In September of 24, Hexaware essentially filed their DRHP with SEBI for about a 10,000 crore IPO. And since then, and the current price for that stock is almost at 1100 a share. So from 390 levels in the last 1.5 years, people who had invested in Hexaware back then have almost netted 3.5, 4x multiple on their investment. So the idea of taking you through these two slides was to show you what kind of checks a person should typically do before investing into the private space. Typically, we like companies where there is a strong backer, where there is valuation support, where there is dividend at play. If they are in a sector which is growing very fast and they might have a leadership position in this sector, and if they are doing the business profitably and are expected to keep growing in a similar pace for the next 2-3 years. So idea is to get a mixture of all of these four things when we are looking at investments. And this kind of helps you to narrow down or zero in good quality investments. Now that we have covered this, I would quickly like to run you through the opportunities which we are working on right now. Please be very critical of the fact that we are not recommending any of these opportunities. The idea is to just showcase you what is available in the market right now, give you factual data on how these companies are performing, and uh, how do their financials look like, financials and valuations look like. So starting first with a company called Vivriti Capital. So Vivriti Capital has two subsidiaries. Vivriti Capital is essentially an NBFC, and they were founded in 2017 and headquartered in Chennai. They are basically into the lending business. They are lending to SMEs, microfinance institutions, other NBFCs, and affordable HFCs. Typically, they give out term loans, working capital loans, supply chains, co-lending, and NCDs. It has two group companies which are of note. So while Vivriti Capital itself is an NBFC which has an AUM of close to 9,000 crores, it has two subsidiaries. One is Vivriti AMC, Vivriti Asset Management, which manages category 2 in the private credit space. The other subsidiary is a company which was previously called Cred Avenue but has now been rechristened as UB. UB is basically running a platform which is a fintech for providing financial services, credit solutions, and debt syndication. So this is more of a platform play, creating a tech-driven platform for solving anything debt-related. Uh, in Vivriti AMC, Vivriti Capital had almost a 67% stake, and in Cred Avenue or UB, Vivriti has close to a 50% stake, which has been slightly trimmed down to 49% now. Vivriti has almost raised 1,300 crores in equity from its previous investors. It is largely backed by three PE funds. One was Lightrock, one is Creation, and recently they got funds from TVS Capital. The first round for Vivriti happened in March 20 when they were valued at around 1,600 crores. Then they raised again at 2,000 crores in March 22 at 10,000 crores. May 22 they raised somewhere around 10,200 crores, and in November 23 they raised the last round of 100 crores at close to 14,000 crores from TVS Shriram Growth Fund. Going ahead to how Vivriti has been performing, essentially, this is how the financials for Vivriti look like. So they performed. Just give me 1 second. So yeah, continuing. Oh, I was presenting. 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that interruption. So for Vivriti, essentially the console PL looks something like this. So they did about 1,000 crore top line in terms of revenue, 800 crore EBITDA. The PAT, however, was about 3.22 crores. This was largely because of the loss which got consolidated as a part of UB. So UB essentially operates like a startup wherein they have raised very small amount of capital from Vivriti Capital and is largely funded by B Capital, Sequoia, and other large VC funds. Now, standalone, how does the lending book for, or how does the lending operations for Vivriti look like? They do 1,000 crore top line with an EBITDA of about 800 crores and a PAT of about 191 crores. In FY21, they posted an excellent jump in revenue of 49%. So Q1 24, they had done 216 crores. And in Q1 FY25, they did almost 321 crores in top line. However, their bottom line was fairly sluggish. So from 52 crore in Q1 24, they were still at 55 crores only in Q1 25. So what we see here is that maybe the operational margin got a little squeezed. Typically, this happens generally if the cost of raising for a NBFC goes increases, or the typical interest at which it is giving out loan portfolios has gone down. So these uh, things have both a positive and a negative sign. So what we can see from the latest results is that although the loan book has grown very fast, that increase in loan book and increase in AUM and increase in interest revenue has not really translated to the bottom line. But nonetheless, Vivriti's growth seems fairly good. At a larger AUM, it will possibly be able to leverage that in the future in a declining interest rate scenario. They will probably do a little better than what they are doing right now. In terms of valuations, they had raised, like we covered here, they had raised money from TVS Shriram sometime last year at about 1080 a share. Currently, they have shares available at around 1040 a share, which gives a market cap of almost 12,000 crores. This sets them at a PE of almost 60 times and a price to sale of around 11 times. Specifically for Vivriti, what needs to be understood in terms of valuation is that it has two large subsidiaries which contribute a lot into its valuation. So UB in itself is, I think, about 50% stake would be close to valued at about 4,000, 5,000 crores. And Vivriti AMC should also be valued somewhere between a 500 to an 800 crore zone. So in this market cap of 12,000 crores, we expect UB plus Vivriti AMC to contribute something close to a 5,000 crore number. And therefore, the total business itself is valued somewhere around
Hello.
a 7 crore MCAP. So at a 7,000 crore MCAP, these ratios would look actually much different. And therefore, we think that uh, Unity has been a company which has diversified into the right lines of business, and it has grown its lending book fairly well, fairly quickly, and it has been also able to control its expenses to a large extent. The next company which we want to quickly cover was Oyo. Oyo obviously has been in the news a lot. So they have had a very tumultuous journey. So started off very slow, then raised a lot of capital from a lot of large VCs. They got badly hit in 2021 during the COVID period. And at that point of time, the company essentially lost both its demand side and its supply side. When I say demand side, obviously they lost the travelers because there was no one who was obviously moving out of their homes. But what they also lost more importantly was this, because there were no inbound travelers. They were also not able to get hotels to kind of stick with them. So a lot of their hotels, which they would have acquired and converted over the last decade, essentially got lost during this period. Since then, Oyo has been on a journey to get lean and trim financially. So they are essentially trying to ensure that they are able to do away with all of the loss making or not revenues and generating or contributing pieces of the business. So they cut off their China business, they cut off any minimum guarantee. Sorry, I think I stopped presenting. Yeah, yeah. So I hope you can see my screen now. Okay. Cool. So, yeah, so back to Oyo. I think essentially the company had had a fairly difficult time for the last 3 4 years, but since then it has decided to cut off all those things which were not making the company a lot of money and were actually putting a strain on their cash balance. They have pared down a lot of debt which they had taken over the years, and since then the company seems to be doing uh, fairly well. They raised. Okay, so let me just try and cover it through the slides. For those who don't know, Oyo is essentially a chain of hotels. The key idea was to standardize experience across budget hotels, wherein they used to tell hotel owners that we will standardize the experience and get bookings for you through our app, and we'd handle the marketing and sales. They started off with India, but then they have also expanded fairly well globally. And now it is at a stage wherein their global revenue is actually higher and more lucrative than their India revenue. So they are fairly large in Europe and US. They had also expanded to other geographies, some of which, because they did not do well, they have actually closed down. Uh, this is a quick overview on where they are globally. So They have raised around 1.5 billion dollars. They have about 18,000 buildings, about 5 lakh rooms, 500 cities, 10 countries, and about 12,000 employees. Um, Currently, they focus on both hotels and vacation home rentals as a business. They have acquired a bunch of companies specifically in the Europe for the vacation hotel business. Recently, they also acquired a large company called Motel 6 and Studio 6 brands from Blackstone for about $525 million. This was an all cash deal. Um Motel 6, as far as I recall, has about 1,000 odd franchisee hotels spread across US. And this is the entire chain is a budget hotel chain. And this acquisition was done just 1.5, 2 months back. As far as I understand, Motel 6 is revenue positive, so there is no burn here. They have a fairly large top line. To the best of my knowledge, Motel 6 does a revenue of around $1.7 billion a year. So typically, it will add a substantial portion to Oyo's top line revenue. Bottom line will also go up. I'm not sure of the overall profitability for Motel 6, but as far as I understand it, it's not. It's profit generating. It's not loss making. So broadly, looks like a sensible acquisition from Oyo's perspective. This is how their fundraising looks like. They raised money from SoftBank, Lightspeed, Sequoia, and Airbnb. Uh, Sequoia Lightspeed listed somewhere around a valuation of 2,000 crores at in around 2015. They did a very large round from RA Hospitality, which was essentially a arm for Ritesh Agarwal himself. He was funded by some Japanese banks for this. This was about 48,000 crore MCAP. And in 2021, they raised a round from Microsoft, which was about 37 odd crores. And this was at a valuation of almost 82,000 crores. This was close to a $10 billion valuation in FY 2021. During this period, obviously, COVID had hit, and these 2 years were extremely bad for Oyo. So 2024, their valuation absolutely catered, and they took another round of 1,500 crores from Incred Wealth and others, at a valuation of almost 22,000 crores. So the last round was at 82,000, and the current round, which was raised very recently, this was in this May of 24. This was almost at a 23,000 crore valuation. So post money, it will almost be 25,000 crores. Now, this is how the financials overall look like. They have clocked a revenue of almost 5,500 crores. There is a slight dip in the revenue in FY24 because they have closed off certain regions. Major work done by the company is to rein in costs. They have reduced their employee costs uh, very significantly. I think they would have cut their payroll by almost 350 crores. Plus, they have paid down some debt, which has allowed them to record a profitability number of in FY24 at almost 229 crores. In FY25, the company has given a guidance of almost 700 crores PAT. So this looks like a steep jump as far as profitability goes. If they are genuinely able to deliver a 700 crore PAT, that would make Oyo one of the most profitable startups in the Indian startup ecosystem. Currently, as far as I know, no other startup has been able to script such a turnaround, at least in terms of profitability. The caveat here is that the revenue has not grown, so therefore, investors need to be a little careful whether this turnaround is really by changing cost structures or is it really because they have been able to improve their business model. So that's a red flag also because typically they've not been able to scale revenues here on out. So I think again FY25 will be a crucial year to understand that after implementing cost control measures, are they still able to keep up the revenues or at least grow by a logical margin? Uh, and otherwise, it will not be a sustainable model. So I think FY25 would be a crucial year for Oyo in that sense. This is how the current market cap for Oyo looks like. Approximately 55, 58 is the share price. Around 40,000 crores is the current MCAP. As of FY24, it is standing at a PE of 160. If they are actually able to deliver 700 crores of PAT number in FY25, this PE ratio on FY25 would be close to 50x, which is not a bad number to be at in terms of the company which OYO is. This is a quick summary of how OYO's plan looks like. They had filed their DRHP back in 2021, did not go ahead. FY23, 24, they again filed, again did not go ahead. Currently, as far as I have heard in the market, they are probably going to raise IPO sometime in the next 12 to 18 months, typically when they clock some thousand crores of uh, PAT and a $200 million EBITDA, which is approximately 2000 crores of EBITDA. So if the FI works out well for OYO, I'm expecting that their IPO should also work out well. Quickly covering Indofil. Indofil is a very simple business. It is a company which has a very long dated, steady cash flow generating specialty chemical business. It is from the house of Mr. K.K. Modi, the father of the infamous Lalit Modi. Uh, this was earlier run by his wife, Beena Modi, and uh, her son, Sameer Modi. So the reason why we are introducing Indofil is because we find Indofil to be a undervalued opportunity, typically because it is available at a very logical entry point. So what does Indofil do? Essentially, it's a agrichem business. Its key product is a chemical called Mancozeb, which they produce almost to the tune of 67,000 metric tons yearly. And Latin America is one of the largest areas where Indofil sells Mancozeb. How have they performed? They do approximately a revenue of a top line of 3,000 crores, a PAT of 300 crores. This is the split of where they sell. So India is 55, Europe is 8, Latin America is 23, and rest of the world is around 15%. Top line growth is not significant. Bottom line growth was really good. So they have been able to expand their margins while maybe not expanding their volumes. So, or they have been able to control their costs significantly, both of which is a good uh, step for the company. Now, just coming and covering the valuation quickly, at the current share price of about 1466, Indofil stands at close to 3,000 crores NCAP. This is at a P ratio of 9.4, price to sale of 1x, and price to book of 0.78. What I find interesting is in Indofil, there is a stake in a company called Godfrey Phillips. Godfrey Phillips basically is the marketing arm for Philip Morris International in India, which sells the Marlboro range of cigarettes. And Godfrey is a listed company. The current stake held by Indofil and Godfrey Phillips is almost worth 2,500 crores. What is exciting about Indofil is that while this investment itself is worth 2,500 crores, you are getting the entire Indofil as a company at 3,000 crores. So, in a sense, if you just subtract saleable investments from the company's market cap, you're getting the entire chemicals business, which does a PAT of 300 crores at around 600 crores cap. So typically that is a extremely logical entry point for value investors. Recently, Grant Thornton, which is one of the leading audit and valuation firms, had done a valuation of Indofil Industries, and they had valued the company close to 10,000 crores, which is almost at a 60-70% discount to what it is available right now. So this is a company which is, in our opinion, worth evaluating. This is a quick comparison on how other specialty chemicals business do, but I think this data is available publicly. Typically, industry P in specialty chemicals varies somewhere around 35 to 45 basis the company's pedigree. Indofil itself stands somewhere around 9.5, right? Some key updates on companies, which I'll just take a quick time check. So we are at 4:40. I'll wrap up in the next 5 minutes so that we have 10 minutes for Q&A. NSE, obviously, it has done fairly well in the unlisted space. But one major red flag with NSE is that recently F&O curbs were placed by SEBI, reducing the number of weekly expiry of indexes, which could have been given by every exchange, raising the typical contract size. So the expectation is that NSE F&O volumes might take a hit in the next year. NSDL recently got its approval to raise 3,000 crores from its as a part of its IPO, expected to IPO in the next 4 to 6 months. Swiggy, obviously, I think most people are aware it has been very hot in the news. They are expected to raise about 11,000 crores in the next 2 months, 5,000 as fresh, 6,000 as OFS. Currently, Swiggy is available only in equity form because CCPS has now undergone lock-in. Vikram Solar is again one company which we invested very heavily in the last 1.5 years. It has done extremely well. Again, IPO had been filed for about 1,500 crore fresh issue last month, I think. And they will also do a 1.7 crore OFS, which approximately is around 600, 700 crores. HDB had received its IPO approval from their board. They have not filed yet, but the stock has done extremely well from pricing of 700 to 1,500 in the last 1 year. But we are no longer positive on HDB broadly because it looks expensive to us from a price to book multiple angle. These are some key updates, but I think that's what we want to cover. As a thank you gesture for kind of joining on our webinar, there is a code which the team has come up with of webinar 100. You can use that to buy some shares on our platform. The link to download our app is on the screen in case you would want to download the app if you don't have it. That's it from my side. Thank you so much, everyone, for hearing patiently. I would now turn off the presentation and quickly want to see if there is some questions which we can answer. So I think how we'll possibly do it is we'll just take up some questions from the chat section, and then probably if there is some individual questions, we will try and ask the relevant person to unmute and kind of go ahead. So just quickly browsing through the chat. Only in Hindi, there is a big spread. Spreads is essentially, so there's a question is why is there a spread on the platform? The spread is essentially to account for services by all tiers, the cost of the operations, the cost of handling, the cost of doing business. Because we are not charging separately any commission or brokerage from our clients, therefore the difference in buy and sell is how we make money and how we run our shop. Mr. Srinivasan is asking, give me some knowledge about NSDL. NSDLs are it's obviously a duopoly. It has one of the largest DP accounts. It is losing the race as far as new accounts go, but broadly it's something which will do well in our opinion because it's a regulated space and there is absolutely no third DP which is going to come in and scoop up newer accounts. So NSDL will probably keep on growing organically, and if it actually becomes a little aggressive, it might do much better than this. Pranay is asking, the IPO price of Vari is half of the rate shown. Can you clarify? So Pranay, like I said, IPO price band is not in our hands, but what I expect is that the listing will be at a price close or higher than what it was on in the unlisted markets. So typically, value discovery happens closer to the IPO, but the price band is something which is not in anyone's control. That's essentially decided by the company and the merchant bankers. So let's see how the value discovery happens once the company gets listed. Navneet Kumar is asking, can we have some comments on Polymer Tech? There are a lot of buzz and rumors. Broadly, I think financially the company looks good. I have very little idea on how the management is doing. So can't really put a comment there. Happy to speak to you on call if you would want to chat and understand something specifically.
Can you tell about
NSDL
Polymer Tech
expected IPO
separately?
price, I have no idea per se, but I think somewhere between 1,000, somewhere around 1,000 should be a logical entry price. Sham Dhanuka, do we have such new gems companies in the agenda today? So I think the idea is to kind of find newer opportunities which we like, and the idea is we'll try and keep bringing newer opportunities to you, but you will obviously have to do your own due diligence and
Abhishek
select
ji,
which companies kind of float your boat, because in the unlisted space there is also a huge factor of time. So you need to be patient enough for the value unlocking to happen in the companies. Sometimes it happens very quickly, like it did in the last 1.5 years. Sometimes it does not happen that quickly. So that kind of needs to be covered. Polymatech, Aditya Chari. So Polymatech, I've already said, numbers wise, it looks decent, but other than that, I have not very deep understanding on the company. Any pharma, defense, semiconductor pre-IPO opportunities is what Mr. Madhu is asking. So on the Altis app, there's an option to log into a screener. So under the screener, you can actually sort companies industry-wise. So essentially, you will be able to look at pharma, defense, and semiconductor, but all three sectors are available on in the unlisted space also. So I think we have pharma, we had Mankind before its IPO. Right now, we have pharma, defense. I think we have RRP, semiconductor. I think obviously Polymatech is there, RRP Electronics is there. There are a couple of other companies also, but I think you can refer to the screener section to have a look at that. Navneet says Indophil is up 50%. Yes, Indophil is up 50%. We identified the stock somewhere around 700 a share. The value unlocking in this seems to have started happening, so it has gone up 50%. But even at the current valuations, we feel that there is a logical room for it to kind of zoom on. IPO expectation of Indophil is what Ayush is asking. So Ayush, I don't know when the IPO will happen, because typically the problem is that the management is a little unstable. So there is a fight between mother and son on who will own the company, and therefore the value unlocking is stuck. But I expect it to happen sometime in the future, but I can't put a timeline to it. Any penny stock like Motilal? Yes, we do not advise any penny stocks because we don't think that they will make you money. Schneider Electric, any views? Schneider is a good company. I like the financials, but I think there was a trigger in Schneider which is already played out. So I don't know if there is any juice left in Schneider anymore. अभिजीत पांडे, प्राइस कैसे डिसाइड होता है प्री आईपीओ का? प्राइस डिसाइड होता है बिटवीन बायर्स एंड सेलर्स, बिटवीन कि बायर कितने पे है, सेलर कितने पे है, मार्केट डिमांड एंड सप्लाई. Additionally, it is also dependent on
डिस्टर्ब कर देते कौन सा
selling
कंपनी
price is he selling at, what was the last round, market में similar companies को क्या valuation मिल रहे हैं, market में उस industry का क्या multiple चल रहा है. I think a mix of these things give that pricing out. NSC, how much time does it take to complete? Around 4 months. View on Matrix. Matrix has broadly done well. I think they have gotten some government incentives also recently for their electrolyzer operations. So they are also expected to raise a new round shortly. So I hope that they do well. Largely, currently, the revenue for Matrix comes from gas aggregation and distribution business, which in itself is not very high tech, and I don't see too much margin there specifically. But if they're actually able to sort of do well in the electrolyzer space and green hydrogen space, that might be interesting.
Sir, I just wanted to
Yes,
know if there is
Garuda,
any
I
red
am not
flags.
very well conversant, so I will not be able to take that, Mr. Bora. Jatin Patel is asking about Fino. Fino Paytech is a company which is obviously a holding company. We expect unlocking in that to happen, but I think when we identified Fino, it was around 105, 110. Currently, it's almost at about 140. So I don't know how much juice is left in Fino anymore. Cool. I think most of the companies have been covered. Now let's try and take a couple of questions for people who would have raised hands. So, Pramit, if you would want to unmute and probably ask.
Thank you so much for your valuation time, sir. हेलो अभिषेक जी, आप सुन रहे हो मुझे?
Sir, I lost you. Could you come again?
थैंक यू सो मच सर.
हाँ जी, सर कुछ सवाल
सर,
है क्या?
हाँ,
Anything
मेरा सवाल ये है सर कि ओयो जो है, आपने अभी इतने अच्छे से बताया कि जैसा उसका इंडिया के अंदर बिजनेस थोड़ा कम चल रहा है, लेकिन उसका यूरो और यूएस के अंदर अभी एक्सपेंशन बहुत जोरों शोरों से चल रहा है. तो अगर टाइम वाइज अगर हम हमारे क्लाइंट्स को अगर सजेस्ट करते हैं ये चीज को कि आप लोग ओयो जैसी कंपनी जो हमने अभी जैसा देखा है, बहुत सारा जो स्टार्टअप है जो लॉस मेकिंग कंपनी था, जो अभी अभी वो प्रॉफिटेबल में कन्वर्ट हुआ, जैसे जोमेटो हुआ, ब्लिंकिट हो गया, अभी पेटीएम का बिजनेस उसने खरीद लिया है। तो वैसे ही अगर समझो ओयो अभी कर रहा है, तो क्या हम ओयो को सजेस्ट कर सकते हैं क्या हमारे क्लाइंट्स को सर?
सर, लाइक आई सेड, रिकमेंडेशन हम नहीं दे पाते हैं बिकॉज एसेंशियली वी डोंट डू दैट. I can give you the facts of the case. What turnaround has happened is there. कंपनी में क्या बदलाव आया इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी आपके सामने है. कंपनी का क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है, कंपनी किस दिशा में जा रही है, वो मैं ट्राई करके कवर कर सकता हूँ. I expect the company to do decently well in the next 1 year. The only thing which will left to be seen in OYO is if they are actually able to grow along with controlling costs. And if they are probably able to do that, then I hope that they do well. So with the IPO and all on the horizon, I think it should be okay.
Excuse me, sir.
थैंक यू.
I just wanted to know if there is any red flags in the Polymetric shares.
So again, like I said, numbers wise, they look good. I am not aware of any red flags per se, but I have not been able to get into Polymatech very deeply. So can't comment on Polymatech really.
Okay, anything
सर,
like whether Polymetric DRHP has been rejected or returned?
Yes, Polymatech had filed a DRHP some time back, and they had been rejected by SEBI about 6 months back. I don't think they have filed after that. So I'm not sure if they're refiling or if
Any
they've got.
rejections reason, sir, behind?
Rejection reason is not given by SEBI. I think at least it is not given publicly. I don't know if they've given to the company, but rejection was there. That is there on the SEBI's website. So that is for sure.
But we got a message from Polymatech, right? So saying we are not going right now. So we are going after some time. So we are seeing more value. Something like that. We got it from
Sure,
Polymatech.
sure.
अभिषेक जी, आपने एक डिफेंस स्टॉक बोला, अभी कौन सा बोला? आरआरपी.
RRP है, good luck है. These two are, I think, into defense sector. Again, not a recommendation.
ओके
Please
ओके
study the company, understand the valuation, see the
ओके
financials, and then decide. I am just telling you which companies are there in that particular sector, nothing else.
ओके. थैंक यू
Abhishek
सर.
sir,
हाँ जी.
hello. Sir, do you think the valuation of unlisted market companies have higher valuations like I saw HDFC Bank like 11,000 rupees per share.
HDFC
Like,
Securities.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of weird. Ki 11,000 per share amount.
तो पर शेयर हाई प्राइस ऊपर होने से कंपनी महंगी नहीं होती है.
Mm-hmm.
जस्ट टू टेल यू, बर्कशायर हैथवे करके कंपनी है, उसका शेयर 7-8 करोड़ का एक शेयर है. एमआरएफ किसी जमाने में 1.5 लाख रुपए का एक शेयर हुआ करता था. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the company is expensive. What you have to look at is PE ratio, price to book ratio, valuation multiples, and then decide. So don't look at the share price in isolation because that doesn't give you the right picture.
Okay.
Overvaluation हो सकता है कि unlisted space में, yes, obviously that's possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Always there is an option कि कोई भी secondary market में overvaluation possible है और होता है. हर कुछ सालों में the market gets too excited, they raise the prices of all of the companies, and at that point it becomes difficult to find good opportunities. And typically ये bull run के end की तरफ होता है. So valuation is something which you cannot ever ignore. तो वो आपको हमेशा ध्यान रख के you have to kind of cut off where
Okay.
that the company has now reached its full potential in terms of valuation.
So do you think the primary and secondary market also impact the unlisted shares?
Yes, obviously. Sentiment is there. See, it's all linked to how primary is going, right? So if the broader
Okay.
market is going well, if the valuations there are rising, it obviously has an impact here. It may not be correlated 100%, but yes, linkage is obviously there.
So what's your current view on current market scenario like Bank Nifty?
So see, I think broadly, I think there uh, is huge retail buying which is sustaining the markets even now,
Mm-hmm.
because FII selling is extremely large in the
Yeah.
last month. Almost 85,000 crores of stock has been sold by FIIs, and those have all been majorly sucked up by domestic institutions only.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there is a chance that there might be a small to medium fall in the future. But
Okay.
broadly, from a 3-year, 5-year perspective, it is obviously I'm eternally bullish and optimistic on the Indian markets.
Hi Abhishek, just want to know regarding this Garuda Aerospace because I have read somewhere that it is available in a ticket size of 30 lakhs. So one unit is comes around 1 lakh 77. Just want to know what is that? And they are different shares? Are those are equity? What is those?
Suraj, we'll have to take that offline. I am not aware of Garuda essentially of the current offering. So if you want, we
Okay.
can connect and then I can try and get you a proper answer on that.
Okay,
Hey
fine.
Abhishek, quick question. Can we know what price the last rounds have gone in? Like OYO, you said recently there has been a thing gone. So would there be a public information at what price?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you Google, you will get all the information. They had raised in May 24 at about 23,000 crores or $2.5 billion valuation. They had raised 1,500 crores.
At what share price can we get to know
That
that?
was approximately at 30.
Okay, thanks.
So आप इस तरह से समझ सकते हो 30 रुपए में कंपनी का वैल्यू करीबन 25,000 करोड़ था. तो नाउ अकॉर्डिंगली जो भी करंट भाव है उसको आप एक्सट्रापोलेट करके करंट मार्केट वैल्यू निकाल सकते हो. एंड ऑल ऑफ दिस डेटा इज देयर ऑन द Altius ऐप. एसेंशियली जस्ट गो टू द ऐप, सर्च फॉर ओयो, स्क्रॉल डाउन, आपको सारा डेटा मिल जाएगा. करंट प्राइस क्या है, प्राइस में मार्केट कैप क्या है, लास्ट राउंड कितने पे हुआ था. The attempt is to give everything which we kind of covered right now on the app itself. So
Thanks. I think it's quite informative. It's just that all the information about Wari and all those things that we have invested. Thanks for that information. Please keep doing that.
Thank you. Sure.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Abhishek. Good evening.
Ji.
Yeah, Mr. Abhishek, I want to inquire on Apollo Green Energy. Could you please provide some information available? I believe that still they are not submitted. We can't see these financials of 2024 so far in any public domain or in any unlisted arena. Could you please provide the information? What is the latest financials information, and what is their? I think order book also they have good, and what is their IPO plans and whatever information you have? Can you please throw on us? Thank you.
Sure. So I think they had shared projected financials, but I will still check if the. Just give me a second to check up on this. Right. So 24th financials officially from the company is not being published, but I'm expecting that we are in October right now. So another 10-15 days, the company will publish on MCA. So I think we'll get to know at that point of time. IPO plans, I am genuinely on Apollo. I'm not aware what are they doing or when are they planning to do an IPO. But what I understand is that they have been raising money fairly frequently. So I've seen 3-4 different raises in the last 1 year. So typically 1.5, 2 years should be a decent timeline. But I have actually no official confirmation from the company or any market insights also on Apollo. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. But do you have any information on this business prospects or how their business line and all, how it looks like going forward?
They're a plain vanilla EPC player. They are doing construction and engineering and procurement for solar projects. So essentially, say you are a factory owner, you have a shed area, you want to put solar panels on the top. So you will hire Apollo Green. They will come, they will discuss with you and help you put up a solar panel on top. It will be a project-based revenue for them. So I think that's the major revenue stream. Earlier, they were named Apollo International, where they used to also do some trading and leather goods. I think they renamed to Apollo Green some 1.5 to 3 years back. So that's a quick summary. As you also search on Google, I'm sure you'll get a credit report on Apollo Green, which will give you a lot of this data directly from CRISIL. So that can be helpful for you to read.
Thank you.
Hi, Abhishek.
Finally,
Hi,
just
Abhishek.
can we understand this as a second worry? Next worry kind of that? Can we understand?
I don't think so. I mean, Wari was something different. I don't think there are too many players who are doing what Wari had done. So with the available information, I don't think it is anywhere close to Wari.
Okay. Thank you,
Hi,
Mr. Abhishek.
Abhishek. Nice presentation. My question is, when can we see NSE's IPO hitting the main board?
NSE IPO, I think they have cleared all regulatory tussles. So their final verdict has come out. SEBI has given an okay. NSE board has approved the filing plan. Now NSE has to hire merchant bankers, initiate the IPO process, prepare the DRSP file, take SEBI's approval to actually go for an IPO. So I think another 12 to 18 months, considering how large the company is and how deeply regulated it is. But whatever roadblocks were there for the IPO to come in, that has been removed, in my opinion.
Thank
Sir,
you.
any comments on Sterlite power transmission?
Sterlites are essentially, Sterlite is used to operate on a BOT model. They used to take projects for creating full-fledged turnkey power solutions. Then they used to put that particular project into a investment trust. Then the investment trust used to get sold. Earlier, they used to do this with the Integrate Invit, which was a JV with KKR. Now, I think they are doing it on their own books. Sterlite is doing a split. So it will become two companies, Sterlite Power and SGL5 is what they have named their new company, which will be the asset holding arm, and Sterlite Power in itself will become a pure play consultancy and execution arm. So there will be no hard assets in Sterlite Power. Broadly, I think power theme as a theme I like. The company did not do very well financially for the last 1.5 years, because of which there is no major price movement in the last 3 years in Sterlite, to be honest. But I think that they should do well. One difficult pointer could be that the group itself is a little stressed for funds, so it is obviously a part of the Vedanta group. But other than that, I think pure play as a business, it looks good to me.
Abhishek, Amit here. Can
Hi,
I
Abhishek.
Wari Engineers, can you give some update? It's showing not traded in the site, so no more trading.
So Wari, like I said, its IPO is next week, which is why the ISIN has been locked. So no transfers can be done anymore for Wari, and whatever shares anyone is holding is now locked in, and they will be able to execute. They will be able to liquidate 6 months later post the IPO, which is why we have turned off the option to invest on the platform.
Okay, thanks. Any update on Paymate?
Payment, interesting. Yeah, Payment. I've been hearing mixed reviews. I hear about them getting newer contracts. I heard about a fundraise which they had done recently from one VC fund also. But I think there was some regulatory blockade which they had gotten stuck in India, because RBI had disallowed credit to businesses on credit card. So you can't pay for your business expenses on credit card, which was earlier the model for Payment. So I am not very well versed with how they are placed right now. I will try and get back to you on this.
Okay, and someone was asking for defense stocks. So there is one which I had picked up is C2 Advance, C2C Advance. How is that?
So I think I really like the space in which C2C is there. So they build tactile softwares for Ministry of Defense. It is very surprising that a company which is so new has been able to get very significant government contracts. So let's see how that plays out. I'm not very sure, but its space is definitely interesting. And I don't think the IPO is also very far. I think they had gotten the approval. I think IPO should come in very quickly.
Okay. And I
Hi,
missed
Abhishek.
sorry, one more minute. I missed your update on Apollo Green. So it is good for future, right? Apollo Green?
Sir, both. I am not able to give you a very good yes or no on the stock broadly, because valuation and pricing is okay. But typically, like I said earlier, it was into leather and trading, and now it is into EPC. So I'm not sure what percentage of revenue is coming from where, and therefore, I don't know if there is enough data for me to comment on Apollo Green. We are seeing if we can get in touch with the management and get some more insights.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Abhishek. Can you just comment on Lakeshore Hospital?
So what would you like me to comment? I mean, do you want to understand the valuation, how the company is?
Valuation or the company, when they are going to the hospital, when they are going to IPOing or something like that, whatever information.
So I think financially they are doing well. As far as I remember, they were at about 1,000 crores of market cap. So let me just put up Lakeshore for everyone's benefit.
Sure.
Abhishek, can you tell about Matrix Gas and Renewables?
So I think this is how Lakeshore looks like. I think they are at about 1,150 crore MCAP. They had a sale of almost 500 crores and a PAT of almost 57 crores, and this was in 23. So I'm not sure how have they done in 24. I'll also see if I can find the 24 data, but at these numbers, it looks decent. DRHP has not been filed and there are no talks for an IPO as far as I've heard. So not sure on the IPO bit, but broadly from a defense, from a healthcare space, the numbers look logical.
I'm interested.
Abhishek,
Can I add from price?
Razorpay.
Sorry,
I was asking if
yeah,
Razorpay shares are available on Axis.
no, Razorpay
Razorpay
is
software.
not there with us. Sorry.
Any views
Can
on
you tell about
TRL
Matrix Gas
Krosaki?
and Renewables?
TRL Krosaki is essentially a decent company. We like the space. It's into refractories. We like the valuation. It's, I think, close to 22x B2B contracts, long revenue streams, no marketing required. Just make a good product and keep servicing your clients well, and you should do decently well. Almost at a 40-50% discount to the typical market valuation in the refractory space. So broadly, I think it's good to me. But yeah, please do your due diligence.
Yeah,
And
Abhishek, what you are expecting like in Swiggy? I just wanted to know about Swiggy's listing expectations.
Sure. So Atul, before I answer, I think we had set the webinar time from 4 to 5. We are at 5:06. So let's try to do 3-4 more questions, but let's close out by 5:10. If I still am not able to answer any more questions, please reach out to anyone from my team and we'll try and help you out offline. But yeah, for the next 3-4 minutes, please keep the questions coming. Happy to answer.
Can you tell about Matrix Gas? Matrix Gas and Renewables?
So would I just answer Amit's question? So I think he had asked for an update on Swiggy. I think Swiggy typically, like you would have heard, the IPO is expected somewhere mid of November to early November. Currently, I think the price band, the valuation is around 10 to 11 billion dollars. Not sure where it will actually come for. What will the price band be? But I don't expect it to be above 500 or below 400. So somewhere between the 400 to 450 region is what the IPO price should be. Listing gains, I'm not sure, but I think it should have some room considering where Zomato is. And considering that while the company is still loss making and therefore it deserves a bit of a discount, but the current discount portion is a little large, which can be narrowed a little, essentially. That's my understanding on Swiggy.
Hello, Abhishek. When will be Flipkart available?
So Flipkart, I don't think it's come for a secondary ever. If it comes, I'll let you know. But other than that, I have no timeline on that. Sorry.
About Matrix Gas?
Okay, thank you.
Renewables?
Matrix I had covered, sir. I told you that that there's a new primary round happening, which I've heard that there might be a new primary round. But in the secondary space also, I think there is a little bit of availability. So if you want to invest, I think we can arrange the shares.
Hi, Abhishek. Any views on Bootus?
Bootus, I've heard good things. Again, not very conversant on the company. So what Bootus does is essentially it has, I think, zero carbon footprint,
Right.
construction technology. So they are trying to get into the construction space themselves. Earlier, they were doing consultancy on the same. Valuation wise, it looks a little expensive, but clean energy, green construction, these things are in vogue, and there is a lot of focus from the government also. And Bootus is majorly into government projects as of now. They have done a museum in Jhansi via the green building technology. But again, I haven't had a chance to meet the management yet, so not sure on how they are exactly planning to do things. Just typical research on the internet is what I'm basing these thoughts on.
Okay, Abhishek. And any view on Good Luck Defense? Last thing.
Similar, I think Good Luck essentially is from the same as Good Luck India, which is a listed company. They have a market cap of around 4,000 crores. Good Luck India promoters look decent. The Good Luck India shares has done well. So hopefully with the same lineage, Good Luck Defense should also do well. But currently they have not started manufacturing as far as I know. The plant is under final stages and should be live maybe this year or end of next year. And that's when we'll actually get to know how that pans out.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you, everyone. I am sorry. I think we are still some hands up, but unfortunately, we have to kind of cut this off at a logical time limit. But I thank everyone for taking an hour out of your schedules to come and listen and chat with me. We'll try and do this a little more frequently so that we are able to get to everyone's questions eventually. And as always, we're always trying to get to more companies which is not there in this space right now. Meet the management, see what they are doing, and we'll try and bring more of those companies. The updates will obviously be shared on the app and the website. So keep track of that. And looking forward to hearing from you if you need to discuss anything one-on-one with me. Thank you. Have a great weekend and see you everyone on the next call. Thank you.
Thank you.